In just over an hour, former special counsel Robert Mueller will testify before Congress in a day that is likely to be historic. Mueller will face 5 hours of questioning from 2 committees regarding his report on the Russia investigation. You'll remember that nearly 450-page report found 10 possible acts where the president obstructed justice, but did not come to a conclusion on if the president actually did so. So, Bafta Yamam is in Washington with what to expect from today's hearings.
Former special counsel Robert Mueller will be on Capitol Hill today, testifying before the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Both hearings will focus on what he found while investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election.
For many Americans, just learning what's in the report will be a revelation.
Mueller is, by his own account, a reluctant witness.
The report is my testimony.
The special counsel's nearly 2-year probe ended in May. Its findings were published in a 448-page report that did not identify evidence of a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. However, it cited 10 instances of potential obstruction of justice issues involving the president. The Department of Justice sent Mueller a letter asking him to keep his testimony within the boundaries of the report. Democrats, though, are hoping to get more than that.
He owes the American people some answers on some really important questions, like why he chose not to interview the president.
Republicans and the president say the Mueller report is old news.
No, I'm not going to be watching, probably, maybe I'll see a little bit of it. I'm not going to be watching Mueller.
We've already heard from him. You know, it seems to me, I don't know how many times we want to see this movie again.
Democrats agreed to Mueller's request to have his longtime deputy with him today. But Aaron Zebley will only be sworn in during the Intelligence Committee's hearing. He won't be questioned by the Judiciary Committee.
Okay, so for more on this, I'm joined by CBSN political reporter and Democratic strategist and CEO of Blueprint Strategy, Antjuan Seawright, as well as CBSN political reporter and Republican strategist, Michael Graham. Thanks for joining me so early, because I know you're going to be here probably all day long. So listen, Antjuan, I want to start with you. The basic question. What are Democrats hoping to get out of Mueller? He's already said, listen, I'm not going to go beyond what's already publicly known.
I think we have to get him on the record, flushing out parts of this report that were perhaps redacted. And I think we need to hear him read the report and some specific areas in the report that somehow the Republicans spend day and night trying to rebuff or act as if they do not exist. But I also think that Democrats going into today's hearing have to have manageable and reasonable expectations. The special prosecutor has been clear that he is not going to go outside of what he's laid out in the report, but there's some damaging things in the report that will give them, I think, the political cover to continue with their efforts to investigate and legislate as they have done so successfully to this point.
Give me something specific.
The fact of the matter is, just because he did not prosecute or charge the president does not mean that the president did not commit crimes or things that were worthy of them. He specifically went by rule of law, saying it cannot be happened according to the rule of law.
Right. So Michael, yeah, you're right. If he doesn't go beyond the bounds of the document that's already been written, his report, then we kind of already know what's there, right?
That seems to be the case. I mean, this is one of those interesting political events where you wonder where you get to the meat. Like, where's the, everyone wants some sauce, some sass. I pray President Trump is lying, and he probably is, about not watching, because I'm hoping there'll be a tweet feed that will keep us excited, because I'm not going to say that Robert Mueller isn't the most exciting person in American politics today, but he's not a lot of sparks. And if he does stay within the 4 corners, as he keeps saying over and over again in the report, then that takes away the chance for sparks. I also want to add something. There are going to be 2 completely different views of what we see today. The talk radio conservative universe, if people watch Fox News, they have a whole series of questions that they want asked about how the report started, how it began with the document that was funded by the Democrats in the Clinton campaign. They want to talk about that. And half of America is going to hear these questions from Republicans like Mark Meadow and go, what are you even talking about? Then the other half are going to be looking at Robert Mueller, and I think Antjuan is absolutely right. They need to measure their expectations. I think some people are expecting him to go, I can't take it anymore. He's guilty and impeached now. That's never going to happen with Robert Mueller.
When you talk about some people are going to be listening to it and go, what are you talking about? That's exactly what the Democrats think, too. They think that, hey, a lot of people didn't read this. And if they just read it, they'll find out a whole lot of stuff about their president that they didn't know.
Well, not only that, I think that the bottom line is Democrats have to frame this from a national security standpoint. We cannot ignore the fact that Russia hacked into our elections to change the way the American political system works. Republicans tend to press the ignore button on that, and they do not want to deal with that. But that's a real thing. The second thing is we can't ignore the fact that, yes, Donald Trump, the Republicans, and his kids worked with a foreign power that ultimately ended up influencing our elections. But I'm not naive to not believe or to believe that we're going to change anybody's mind on the left or the right. This is a conversation, again, for people who go back and forth. We call them independents in this business.
But you just revealed, I think, the strategy that some Democrats have expressed. As someone on the Judiciary Committee who has said off the record, people don't read the book, they watch the movie. And what they're hoping is that reading, for example, the account of President Trump telling Don McGahn to fire Robert Mueller, that reading that account, reading some of the language that President Trump used, that's going to shock people. And I just wonder if this will have that the shockable audience. You know what I'm saying? Like people who watch CBSN every day and who follow the news, they know largely what happened. It's those people you're trying to persuade. Are they really going to tune away from whatever Judge Judy and say, I want to see this lawyer talk lawyerly about lawyer stuff?
But here's what it would do. It will highlight the cups of corruption that overflow from this administration and how we got to this point. And the fact of the matter is, yesterday there was a testimony on Capitol Hill by the FBI director that declared that Russia is continuing to play ball in our elections. And again, if not anything comes out of this, I think that this will give Democrats the credibility with the American people to continue investigating what stems from today's testimony, but also send a shockwave that we have to do something about protecting the most sacred thing we have, and that's our vote in this democracy.
I'll tell you what I'm most interested in, and I don't know if we'll get the answer out of him, is I really do want to know what his intention was with this document, with his document. Was the intention that, you know, like he said, perhaps it could be used as evidence later on? Is it something for the Justice Department? Is it something for Congress in terms of continuing this conversation about impeachment or articles of impeachment?
But here's the interesting thing. So there are a lot of people, particularly legal scholars on the left, who say this is essentially a roadmap to impeachment. You know, follow my breadcrumbs, you've got impeachment. But impeachment is entirely a political act. And so if you don't have the political will to do it, I mean, you have this interesting moment where Democrats say, we've got to impeach this president, he's so corrupt. Okay, well, someone brought a piece of legislation to move impeachment forward last week, and I think, 12 Democrats voted for it? And so Democrats have basically, as long as you say the impeachment gate is closed, then that brings back to the first question, well, then why are we here if that's the point of this document, to walk you down that road?
But the right wants to frame this about impeachment. I want to make sure we keep the conversation about what Congress is supposed to do and be a checkbox for the executive branch. And what we know is Republicans have tried to beat the Democrats up, saying all they want to do is investigate. Well, I think what the special prosecutor did is that he passed the buck to the legislative branch to give them cover and a reason to investigate. And we cannot lose sight of that.
You know, you say the Republicans are doing this, but Nancy Pelosi released a 6-page document in the last 24 hours that basically says, here's our approach to keeping the conversation about our allegations of corruption and bad behavior by Trump alive. So this event is part of a broader strategy. And nobody doubts that ideally, for many on the left, the end of that strategy is impeachment.
As a Democrat who advises Congressional Democratic Caucus, I would tell you that's not the case. What I think been very clear from the beginning is that Democrats want to investigate and legislate. Look, we've passed over 200 and some odd pieces of legislation that the American people, Democrats and Republicans, are so hungry and thirsty for. And we've successfully flushed out the corruption that came from Donald Trump and the people surrounding him. And I think we're going to continue to do that and make the case in 2020 why he is not fit to be president of the United States.
So keeping that in mind, that the role of Congress is to be sort of a check and balance. But I think I have to agree that there's a political component to this, right?
This is
right, obviously. But I mean, you know, this is also about allowing the American public to watch what he has to say and influence the public one way or the other. So let me ask you, though, can the Democrats or the Republicans, can this be a misstep for them? Can they play this badly and it come out in a way that they don't want?
If they do not set reasonable expectations, yes. But if Mueller reads out loud, one line in that report, that if the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. If Mueller reads that aloud and people on that committee ask him to do it 4 or 5 times in a row, I think that will be a commercial you will see across this country in battleground districts to make the case that he's not fit.
What about Republicans?
Well, I think you'll see that ad regardless. I mean,
Right.
this is my question is there movement on this issue? 50% of Americans said in a poll in the last 2 days that they think Congress has spent too much time on this. They're just done. And the people who like Trump, many of them will say he's kind of a sketchy guy. In other words, they don't have a problem believing that all of this is true.
Right.
They just don't care. And so how do you convince people who don't care that they should care? I don't know that this is the kind of forum that can do it. Then again, Robert Mueller may say something stunning. I will say Democrats should be worried, though, because if Republicans aren't dumb, which is a good shot, and they ask some smart questions, most Americans have no clue about the very sketchy origins of that early information. They just don't know the story. And for a lot of people, the first brush that story could be cause them to go, wait a minute.
You expect Republicans to drill down on that, to drill down on the dossier, Strzok, Page.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
And particularly the early days of the dossier, because not many people know that the dossier was funded by the Clinton.
It was not funded by the Clinton campaign.
It was funded by the Clinton campaign.
No. It was not funded by the Clinton campaign. The Clinton campaign, you're in this business like I am, hired opposition research, and the Clinton campaign could not control who they decide to do business with.
So most people don't know this, and so they might go, holy moly, what the heck, how this all started? And I think that's an interesting question, because I believe from the beginning, just as you're right to focus on Russian collusion, it should be a big deal when a president of one party has his DOJ investigate the nominee of the other party, regardless of what that nominee did. If he's a mass murderer, it should be a big deal. And this was not handled by the people inside the DOJ like a sensitive political matter. If they'd been smarter earlier on, that whole narrative the Republicans have would go away. But when you read the emails and texts from Peter Strzok, when you hear the language, when you see what McCabe did, it's hard to say, well, yeah, they were trying to go right down the middle of the line. The Republicans have something to fight back with, which is another reason why Antjuan is right. Lower expectations. It's probably going to devolve into, oh yeah, well, what about this?
Oh gosh, I think we've seen that
Measure
before.
3 times, cut once is my advice to Democrats today.
Oh, very good advice. Thank you, gentlemen. I know we're going to have you back on later on.